Sky shooting 38%. Caitlin Clark, another three-pointer.
This video literally pauses right here until you smash that subscribe button.
Listening to Caitlin, her work ethic and what's important to her, and I mean, she's just starting,
Don't test me, because what you're about to hear isn't just about basketball. It's about pride, ego, rivalries that spilled off the court.
Basketball star Caitlin Clark will have her jersey retired.
And the moments when the loudest celebrations came back to haunt the people who started them. Caitlin Clark didn't just change women's basketball. She forced everyone who beat her to live with what came next. And in some cases, the karma was immediate. In others, it took years. But every single one of these moments had a price.
I think it's just the style of basketball that I play. To be honest, I don't get nervous for games because I just know
Tonight, we're walking through the games where Caitlin Clark was dominated, shut down, embarrassed on the biggest stages imaginable, and then we're gonna talk about what happened after the celebration stopped. Because in women's basketball, nothing lives on the internet longer than a clip except the consequences. Angel Reese. The rivalry that defined an era didn't start quietly. It exploded into the mainstream on April 2nd, 2023, inside the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas, during the NCAA Women's National Championship game between LSU and Iowa. By the time the final buzzer sounded, LSU had won 102-85, Angel Reese had posted 15 points and 10 rebounds, and Caitlin Clark's historic tournament run ended under a confetti shower that wasn't meant for her. But numbers alone don't explain why this game became cultural warfare. Clark finished with 30 points, but LSU never let her control the pace the way she had against Louisville or South Carolina earlier in the tournament. Every catch was crowded, every drive was met with bodies, and every deep three felt contested in a way she hadn't experienced before. LSU's defensive scheme, paired with Reese's physical presence and confidence, flipped the game early, and by halftime, Iowa was already chasing momentum they never regained.
After the game, finishing the way she started this season, LSU has been a confident group throughout. And Angel Reese.
Then came the moment. As the clock wound down and LSU's title became inevitable, Angel Reese followed Caitlin Clark down the court, repeatedly pointing to her ring finger while mimicking Clark's own "you can't see me" celebration from earlier games. The camera caught everything. Twitter exploded within seconds. Instagram Reels hit millions of views before the nets were even cut down. Some fans called it competitive fire. Others called it disrespect. Everyone agreed on one thing: women's basketball had just crossed into a new cultural territory. But what happened next is what made this rivalry legendary. Clark never publicly fired back. No press conference shots, no social media subtweets. Instead, she went quiet. And when Caitlin Clark goes quiet, it usually means she's loading receipts. Fast forward to March 31st, 2024, Elite 8 Iowa versus LSU, the rematch everyone had circled for a year. This time, Caitlin Clark delivered one of the most controlled revenge performances in NCAA tournament history. She dropped 41 points, dished 12 assists, controlled tempo from the opening tip, and systematically dismantled LSU's defense possession by possession. Angel Reese finished with 17 points and 20 rebounds, but LSU never looked comfortable, never found rhythm, and never led after the first quarter. No taunting, no pointing, just domination. Social media flipped instantly. The same timelines that had crowned Reese a year earlier now posted side-by-side clips of Clark calmly jogging back on defense while LSU unraveled. The narrative didn't erase Reese's championship, but it did cement something else. Caitlin Clark always collects. And when the rivalry followed them into the WNBA, the tension didn't fade, it evolved. Clark entered the league as a polarizing star with expectations that dwarfed anyone else's, while Reese carried the label of villain, champion, and lightning rod. Every matchup became must-see TV, not because of trash talk, but because everyone wanted to know who would blink first. So far, neither has. Cameron Brink. Before Caitlin Clark became a household name, Cameron Brink was already the defensive standard in college basketball. And on December 10th, 2023, when Iowa traveled to Stanford, Brink delivered one of the most suffocating performances Clark had ever faced. Stanford won 84-57, and Clark finished with 24 points. But the box score lied. Brink altered nearly every shot Clark attempted in the paint, forced her into rushed pull-ups, and turned Iowa's offensive rhythm into something jagged and uncomfortable. Clark shot under 40% from the field, committed turnovers trying to escape traps, and spent large stretches visibly frustrated. Brink finished with 10 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 blocks, but her real impact was psychological. Every Clark drive ended in hesitation. Every step toward the rim came with Brink waiting. After one block in the third quarter, Brink let out a scream that echoed through Maples Pavilion. Stanford fans fed off it. Twitter clipped it. The caption read, "Welcome to real defense." For a moment, it felt like Clark had finally met someone who could neutralize her. But basketball seasons don't end in December. When Iowa and Stanford crossed paths again in discussions, debates, and hypotheticals, one thing became clear: Clark adapted faster than anyone else. By the time she entered the WNBA, the adjustments were already visible. Deeper range, faster release, more off-ball movement. Brink entered the league with elite defensive potential. Clark entered it with an offense that no longer relied on space. The matchup flipped. Clark didn't need to attack Brink at the rim anymore. She pulled her away from it. She dragged her into switches. She punished every half step of hesitation.
I know she's the type of person that'll, be able to get through it and come out through it stronger. But yeah, it just breaks her heart. She's such a good basketball player, but an even better person, and obviously knowing her and her being one of my friends. And
the same defensive dominance that once shut her down became something Clark learned to exploit, and the player who once screamed after blocks now found herself sprinting through screens trying to recover. Defense wins games, adaptation wins careers. South Carolina. If there was ever a program engineered from the ground up to neutralize Caitlin Clark, it was Dawn Staley's South Carolina. Not because they had one elite defender who could shadow her, but because they had something far more dangerous, a system that erased rhythm, confidence, and comfort all at once. When Iowa met South Carolina on March 27th, 2022 in the NCAA Sweet 16, the hype surrounding Caitlin Clark was already growing. She had spent the season torching defenses with deep threes, impossible angles, and a confidence that felt untouchable. Most teams tried to survive her. South Carolina tried to erase her.
Clark dumps it to Sonano on the roll. Serves Heck honored at halftime, headed to the women's basketball Hall of Fame.
The basketball because within her hands, her range is almost limitless.
Has the mismatch. Oh, Caitlin Clark.
6'7" right there. What do? Boop, step right through.
From the opening possession, it was clear this wouldn't be a normal Clark performance. Every catch came with pressure. Every dribble was met by a body. Guards bumped her off her spots. Wings shaded her driving lanes. And the Gamecocks bigs hedged high before snapping back into the paint with perfect timing. Clark never saw the same defensive look twice. And for the first time in her college career, the game started speeding up instead of slowing down for her.
Big and feet on the other. Caitlin Clark knows she's got 6'7" right there. What do? Boop, step right through.
By halftime, frustration had begun to creep in. Shots that usually felt rushed. Passes that were normally laser accurate arrived half a second late. Clark finished the night with just 15 points on 5 for 17 shooting, a stat line that felt shocking considering how unstoppable she had looked all season. The final score read 66-55, but anyone watching knew it never truly felt that close. South Carolina went on to win the national championship that year, cementing themselves as the gold standard of women's college basketball. Iowa Iowa went home early, and Caitlin Clark went home with something far heavier than a loss: questions. For the first time, there was tangible proof that she could be slowed, disrupted, even controlled on the biggest stage. Analysts dissected the film. Fans debated whether Clark's style could hold up against elite physical defenses. Opposing coaches quietly took notes. Clark didn't respond publicly. She didn't push back against the narrative. She did what she always did when doubt crept in. She worked 2 years later on April 5th, 2024. Those questions finally got their answer.
Do you not get the concept?
When Iowa faced South Carolina again, this time in the Final Four, the stakes were even higher. The Gamecocks entered the game undefeated, dominant, and confident that their blueprint still worked. Dawn Staley threw everything at Clark, traps beyond the logo, hard hedges, late switches, bodies rotating in waves. The same defensive machine that had once made her look human. This time it didn't matter. Clark dismantled South Carolina possession by possession, finishing with 41 points in a performance that felt surgical rather than frantic. Traps turned into pinpoint assists, closeouts turned into logo threes. Defensive rotations that once overwhelmed her now arrived just a beat too late.
South Carolina is just so good. Like, there's only so much you can do. I mean, Cardoso has 17 rebounds. They have 51 as a team. We have 29. Like, hard to win a basketball game like that. You basically got to shoot perfect at that point. And
the undefeated season ended. The defensive myth cracked. Social media erupted in real time, calling it poetic justice, a long-awaited payoff, a reminder that the best players don't just survive their losses, they absorb them. South Carolina had shut Caitlin Clark down once. She carried that memory with her, and when the moment came, she used it. Dejonai Carrington. March 25th, 2024 was supposed to be another chapter in Caitlin Clark's March dominance. Instead, it became one of the most emotionally charged games of the tournament. In the Elite Eight matchup between Iowa and UConn, the game quickly turned into a physical, grinding battle where every possession felt earned. UConn made a clear decision early. If Clark was going to score, she was going to feel every second of it, and at the center of that approach was Dejonai Carrington.
Did you intend to hit her in the eye, and if so, could you just, or if not, either way, could you talk about what happened on that play?
I don't even know why I would intend to hit anybody in the eye. That doesn't even make sense to me, but no, I didn't. I didn't know I hit her, actually. I was trying to make a play on the ball, and I guess I followed through and I hit her, so obviously it's never intentional. That's not even like the type of player that I am.
Carrington didn't just defend Clark, she challenged her. From full court pressure to aggressive closeouts, Carrington stayed attached, forcing Clark to fight for space instead of flowing into it. When passes were disrupted or shots were rushed, Carrington celebrated loudly, clapping after stops, feeding off the crowd, and letting Clark know she was being worked. It wasn't subtle, it wasn't quiet, and it wasn't accidental. Clark still produced numbers because that's what she does, but the game never felt comfortable. Every basket felt contested, every possession felt emotional. The body language on both sides told the story. Carrington was feeding on the moment, and Clark was absorbing it. UConn's run eventually ended later that tournament, but Carrington's defensive performance didn't go unnoticed. Clips circulated online highlighting her intensity. Fans praised her toughness. Analysts pointed to her as an example of how to disrupt Clark without backing down.
Most improved this year.
On the all-defensive team as well, I would say. Carrington has quick hands.
But while Carrington leaned into the spotlight, Clark did something different. She stopped reacting. No clapping back, no visible frustration, no escalation. She let the moment pass and allowed the narrative to move on without her interference. And as matchups changed, seasons progressed, and careers unfolded, the difference between celebration and longevity became impossible to ignore. Carrington's reputation grew as a defensive presence. Clark's game evolved into something quieter, sharper, and far more dangerous. One player stayed in the moment, the other moved beyond it, and only one of those approaches continued to age well.
Circling back on the play with your eye, what would you say to the crowd of people that think a hit like that was intentional and maybe even warrants a suspension?
It wasn't intentional by any means. You just watched the play. It wasn't intentional.
All right, thank you, Caitlin.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Every player who ever destroyed Caitlin Clark got their moment in the spotlight. Some walked away with rings. Some walked away with viral clips that still circulate on social media. There were blocks replayed on highlight reels, celebrations frozen into memes, and Twitter timelines flooded with praise declaring that Clark had finally been figured out. But while those moments lived loudly in the present, Clark was doing something far less visible. She was collecting time to study film, time to understand defensive tendencies, time to rebuild parts of her game that didn't exist yet, time to let the noise fade while the work stayed consistent. Some rivals peaked during those moments. Some struggled with injuries that shifted their trajectory. Others entered the professional ranks and learned the hard way that the spotlight is unforgiving when your game isn't evolving alongside it. Caitlin Clark arrived at the next level already prepared for the weight that comes with attention, criticism, and expectation. She had already been doubted on the biggest stages, already been targeted, already been tested. That's why the league felt different for her. She wasn't chasing validation. She had already survived its absence. And that's the part no one warned them about. When you take your victory lap too early, you might miss the moment when the person you beat comes back stronger than ever. Warning, unsubscribed viewers have a 97% higher chance of losing their Wi-Fi tonight. Don't risk it. If you made it this far, you're already part of the story. Hit subscribe because the next chapter of this rivalry is being written in real time, and trust me, the receipts are still coming.